Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. And as always, I'm your host, the Game Master. And today we're going to be talking about the Batman. But before we get into that, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell for notifications, and as always, be sure to leave us a comment, as that really helps out with the YouTube algorithm. We've got a great community here, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. That said, let's dive in. The prologue to today's story takes place in the 1930s, where Bruce Wayne has completed his training, and it's the very first night that he takes to the rooftops of Gotham looking for crime to fight. And he finds some. In the alley below him, some men are stealing shipping boxes from a business. They're loading a truck with them. One of the men says, "Step on it. We ain't got all night." As they load the truck, Bruce Wayne watches from the rooftop. At this point, by the way, Bruce is just wearing a black jacket, black pants, and a black utility belt. He pulls a black ski mask down over his face and he says to himself, "Well, Bruce, here we go." As the men close the doors on the back of the truck, one of them says, "Let's blow this pop stand." Just then, Bruce flips through the air. He lands nimbly on the loading dock, then demands they lay on their stomachs, or arms spread. The leader of the goons says, "Who is this clown?" Bruce says, "You heard me." As the leader says, "Yeah, you heard him, boys." The leader makes a racist remark, assuming that under the mask, Bruce must be an Asian to know martial arts in the 1930s. One of the other goons says, "Yeah, I'm shaken." Another one says, "Say your prayers, sucker." In DC Heroes, by the way initiative works is the slowest person declares first what they intend to do. And the person with the fastest initiative gets to react to that. So the villains declare they are going to shoot Bruce. Bruce then gets to go first. So he pulls throwing stars out of his utility belt and he multi attacks everyone carrying a ranged weapon. The weapons do go off on their turn, but due to the pain, none of the attackers are able to hit Bruce. The leader of the thugs swings a crowbar at Bruce, but can't hit his dex of 10. By the way, for some listeners familiar with DC Heroes, I'm using the World at War source book, which gives Golden Age Bruce Wayne a dex of 10. I know later versions have a dex of 9. At any rate, moving on. So Bruce punches that guy, doing 2 points of damage. Bruce hits him a second time, knocking him out. But one of the other goons grabs for Bruce, trying to grapple him, wanting to hold him down, but that guy misses. Another goon swings and manages to hit Bruce for 1 point of damage, taking Bruce's body down from 6 to 5. Bruce then punches one goon, doing 2 damage, knocking him out. And the one that hit him last time swings and misses. The truck driver now enters the scene with a shotgun. He fires into melee, almost hitting one of his fellow goons. Bruce ducks into the building as the shotgun blast hits the wall of the loading dock. Thinking Bruce ran away, the driver gets in the truck and starts it, while the other thug goes looking for Bruce. Bruce knocks him out, and as the truck begins to pull away, Bruce runs and grabs the back of it. A 1930s police car sees Bruce hanging on the back of the truck, so they hit their lights and siren. As the truck speeds down the highway, Bruce slowly climbs towards the cab. The truck zigs and zags, trying to shake Bruce off, and the back doors are flapping open and closed. Bruce at one point has to grab onto one of the doors and hold on for dear life as the truck driver smashes into the squad car knocking it on its side. Bruce climbs on top of the trailer and crawls to the front. When he gets to the cab, the truck enters a tunnel, and Bruce begins to smash the windshield with a hammer. The truck driver smashes from side to side, hitting one tunnel wall and then the other. Finally, he slams on the brakes, and Bruce flies over the front. The truck driver speeds up, trying to run over Bruce, but our fledgling Dark Knight is holding on to the grill of the truck. Bruce reaches in his utility belt and subs an Omni gadget for caltrops. He throws them in the path of the truck's tires, and then Bruce jumps off as the truck slams into a brick wall. Bruce checks on the driver, and he's alive but hurt. The wail of police sirens fill the night, so Bruce decides to vanish. He uses his rock climbing skills to scale a nearby building, and from high above, he watches the police from the darkness. The next day, he's reading the newspaper in his den, and the headline reads, "Mysterious Vigilante Repels Bandits." Bruce feels something was missing, though. That whole thing did not go as well as he had hoped. There's something that he still needs in his arsenal that he hasn't thought of yet. Just then, Bat crashes through his window, scaring him half to death. And that's when it occurs to him. Now we get into the main plot of today's game session. It is now September 1939, and a 28-year-old Bruce Wayne puts on the newest version of the Batman costume. The first version had larger ears that angled outwards and wrist-length purple gloves, as well as a big round belt buckle. As he goes, Bruce is always refining the suit. The belt buckle gouged him when he'd bend over, the larger ears hit door frames, etc. So slowly but surely, he's perfecting everything. He begins his patrol, bounding from rooftop to rooftop until eventually he hears a man cry out for help. A beautiful woman with long hair wearing a skimpy red robe is walking towards the man. So the Batman uses his bat rope to lasso the man and pull him high up onto a telephone pole out of the woman's reach. The man says, "Who are you?" Batman just says, "Stay here." Then he jumps down to where the woman is. To his shock, it's his fiancée, Julie Madison. And she seems shocked too. Julie says, "Where am I? What am I doing here? Who are you?" The Batman drives her home, and then the next day, Bruce Wayne takes her to the doctor. But the doctor has this strange way of staring at them, and he suggests Julie take a vacation to calm her nerves. Oddly enough, he suggests she go to Hungary, the quote unquote land of werewolves. Bruce thinks that's a pretty bizarre thing to say, and he tells Julie as much. After taking her home again, he returns to the Batcave, where he now has two brand new weapons in his war on crime. One is an invention he calls the Batarang. The other is a bat-themed autogyro. For any listeners who are unfamiliar, by the way, the autogyro was basically the precursor to the modern-day helicopter. So as Julie goes on her cruise, the bat gyro flies out to sea. From the ground, it just looks like a giant bat in the night sky, and it scares everyone to death when they see it, including Julie. Just then, a supervillain named the Monk approaches Julie. He wears red robes and has a red hood, kind of like what Cobra Commander wears part of the time, and on his chest is a skull and bone symbol. As the Monk walks towards Julie, Batman slides down a rope ladder onto the deck of the ship. The Monk tries to use the control power on Batman, but Bruce has an intelligence of 11 and a mind of 11, So the monk fails this round, but just barely. All he needs is to roll a 13 or higher on two 10-sided dice. And if he does, the Batman will be forced to do his bidding. Batman throws his new batarang at the monk, but doesn't hit him. Knowing how easily it would be for the monk to take control of his mind, Batman reluctantly decides he needs to fall back. The ship arrives at Paris, and that night, a literal gorilla enters Julie's bedroom. Batman tries to save her, but is knocked out by the gorilla. When he wakes up, the Batman is in a net hanging over a square pit. In the pit are tons of venomous snakes. Sitting on a throne nearby is the monk, who's giddy to begin. As the monk monologues about how he's going to feed Julie to his werewolves in Hungary, Bruce finishes waking up. The monk pulls a lever, and the Batman is slowly lowered towards the pit. So Batman throws his grappling hook, snagging the monk like a fish, then reeling him in. The monk holds onto the net for dear life, and Batman cuts through the net with an Omni gadget, then climbs the rope. The monk tries to use the control power on Batman once more, but again rolls under a 13 and fails. On the snake's turn, they bite the monk, killing him. Batman climbs to the top of the rope and looks down, seeing that the monk is a victim of his own devices. He tried to use animal control on the snakes, but there were so many of them, he would have to use multi-attack to control them all at once, and it was just beyond his abilities. Batman cuts the rope below him, then swings on the rope he's hanging onto, landing on level ground on the other side of the pit. Unfortunately, though, now that the monk is dead, he can't use animal control to keep the gorilla calm. So the gorilla attacks Batman, but misses. Batman punches the gorilla, doing 1 point of damage, taking the gorilla down from a body of 5 to a body of 4. By the way, in case anybody cares, we're using 3rd edition DC Hero stats for the gorilla. Batman then punches again for another 2 points of damage, so now the gorilla has a body of 2. The gorilla hits Batman and misses. Well, I should have said he swings at Batman and misses. Batman hits the gorilla for 1 point of damage, and the gorilla is knocked out. Batman then searches the area and finds the chain that the monk used while he would sleep at night, because the monk can't use animal control while he's asleep, right? So using that chain, Batman tethers the gorilla to the wall and calls the local authorities. He vanishes, though, before they arrive. And Bruce Wayne and Julie Madison finish their European vacation together without any supervillains to interrupt them. Then we get to the epilogue. Bruce and Julie go to the World's Fair, where Westinghouse is showing off a robot that they built named Electro. A supervillain named the Ultra Humanite tampers with the robot, though, and it goes wild. Just before it can attack Bruce and Julie, the robot is lifted into the air by Superman. The Batman and Superman team up and stop the Ultra Humanite and his henchman, Lex Luthor. And that's it for that adventure. This adventure, by the way, was based on multiple things. The prologue was inspired by Mask of the Phantasm. The main plot was inspired by Detective Comics number 31. And the epilogue was based on Batman Superman Generations by John Byrne. Most people never believe me, but John Byrne used to come to the Mid-Ohio Comic Con in Columbus all the time. The year I met him, I was in art school and took my portfolio with me, hoping that he would give me some advice. When I met him, I was so nervous, I actually thought I was going to pass out, and I told him as much. So he told me to sit down. And then right there on the convention floor, we sat on the carpet. I'd gotten there just as they were closing for the day, by the way. So it was just us. And So Byrne starts going through my portfolio. And the whole reason I was in art school was because I wanted to tell the stories of this role playing game. So all of my drawings were things from the game. And it was things like Batman and Superman meeting in the Golden Age, Superman getting older and having white streaks on the side of his hair, Dick Grayson taking over as the next Batman once Bruce Wayne was too old to keep going, that sort of thing. And I'm a huge fan of the Transformers. So I had them in there as well. I knew I could never get the rights to the Transformers though, so I called my version Mechamorphs. John Byrne saw them and asked what was up with them, so I explained it and I said, instead of saying they would transform, I would instead say they underwent metamorphosis. And he said, "That's genius." I thanked him, and it meant the world to me that he said that. And I think that he liked that I was so excited to meet him that I almost passed out. Then he signed a pile of my She-Hulk comics, and he could see by the creases in the pages that I had been tracing his art, and that's how I was learning how to draw comic book stuff, right? At any rate, we got along incredibly well, and he treated me really well. I hear a lot of people tell stories to the contrary, but that was not my experience. To me, he was super nice, right? At any rate, so time passes, and one day I walk into the Collection Connection in Worcester, Ohio. And the comic shop owner there was a guy named Wayne Birch, who gave me a weird look when I walked in, and I asked, "What's going on?" And Wayne, by the way, was the second GM of our game, and Greg Sheets was there. He was the third GM of the game. They handed me a brand new comic book that had just hit the stands that Wednesday, and it was Batman Superman Generations, and it was our game world. And at one point in that miniseries, by the way, Brainiac goes from being an organic alien from the planet Kolu to becoming his 80s robot version. And he literally refers to this as his mechamorphosis. I was blown away. So was everybody else who played in our game. Um, and that was the same world where the Golden Age Batman teamed up with Captain America. So it's a world where Marvel and DC coexist, which is also how our game world works. And over the years, John Byrne has literally gone on record as saying that if you don't want him to use your ideas, then don't show him your ideas. So quite a few people have asked me over the years if I felt like John Byrne ripped us off, but I don't feel that way at all. Um, I had set out to make a comic book about our game world, and to be totally frank, I failed. I never made it, but Byrne did it for me, you know? So if anything, I'm glad that he made Batman Superman Generations. I'm happy that the story is out there and that there are people who enjoy it. Speaking of which, we hope that you enjoyed listening to today's video. If so, and if you would like to support our channel, be sure to smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell for notifications, and as always, be sure to leave us a comment, as that really helps us out with the algorithm. We hope that you guys have a fantastic week, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.